The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Daylight savings time sucks. Although, if you don't know that we lost an hour, then I guess you don't know, right? Wasn't at one point we're doing away with it?
Yeah.
And then that just kind of
Well,
went away.
I think they always say that.
Well, then just do it. Just stop talking about it. Every time you think it's extinct. So not only did we lose an hour, but we also lost something else.
Oh, nice segue. We have to address it. Christina, longtime listeners will know she hasn't been with us since episode 295.
295. She didn't even make it to the 300 mark.
No, and that was, if you want to go back and relive old memories, that was the update to Haunted Mansion, the 2023 update to Haunted Mansion, paired with the original Pirates of the Caribbean. So her last episode was 295, which means she will not be with us anymore going forward. I don't like to think that we've totally shut the door, because maybe she'll come back on it.
Never say never. Hey, we've gone from 5 to 3 to 2 to 3 to 2 again. For whatever reason, this podcast just keeps chugging along.
Because her stuff is gearing up. If you follow her on X, as they call it, or social media, you'll see that she is just pumping out those releases.
She had her things going long before she ever joined us. So, and she was our longest co-host.
Yeah.
Her tenure here was longer than anybody else outside of you and I. So that's unfortunate, but Godspeed and onward and upwards for her. So
yes, absolutely.
Maybe every now and again we'll check in with her and see what she's got going on.
All right. What are we doing this week?
Oh, much like St. George, I think we're going to march in and slay ourselves some dragons.
We're venturing into two different caves and assessing the special effects from two different generations, two different eras. So we are
that's
covering,
interesting, right? That's a 50-year difference.
So we're covering something that's brand new out of the oven, just premiered on Netflix just a matter of days ago. Damsel, starring Millie Bobby Brown.
And I had to search for it on Netflix. It didn't just pop up as, hey, look what's new.
I had to as well.
What can I just say this right now? Why does somebody not invent a TV guide for all the streaming services stuff? IMDb is probably my go-to to at least find out if something's available on streaming. But again, when we first started talking about this, you were unaware that this movie was even been announced or dropping.
Yeah, I was not aware.
So how many of these movies come and go that we just don't, on these services that only advertise on their own services? And unless you're going to sit there and scroll through them on a daily basis, which I do not, you're unaware.
Along with Damsel, we are covering one of the all-time classic dragon movies, maybe the one that, that set the bar.
Pete's Dragon. No, that's not what we're doing.
That did come first. That did come before our co-feature. But no, we are covering Dragonslayer.
And I think that we found Damsel just as an excuse to be able to bring you Dragonslayer.
Yes.
So a lot of similarities. Most dragon movies outside of Reign of Fire, you got to sacrifice. Yeah. You got to sacrifice a
damsel,
virgin or two. Can I just ask this? Why does the virgin have to be female?
Times being what they were, and back in those early dark medieval days, nobody was willing to sacrifice their sons.
Yeah, well, you'll find out in our co-feature with Dragonslayer that there's an easy fix for this as well, which is to unvirginize yourself.
Yeah, and it's a little bit
loophole. There's a loophole.
It's a little bit cloudy as if that actually happened or not, because the camera cuts away. So it's suggested. but it's never really spelled out for you that that's what happened.
No, and I'll tell you, like I came into this going, why is this not on Disney Plus? And after watching it, I'm like, this is why it's not on Disney.
Well,
Plus.
that wouldn't stop Disney from making an edit here and there. They've done that before.
Oh, don't get me started on Splash. To cover up that buttocks. So, but anyways, we are not talking Splash. So, do we want to get into some news? Because now that we're bi-weekly, there's a lot of news that comes and goes, and I'm always trying to cherry pick what we should be talking about and not talking about. Like you said, by the time this drops, the Oscars are tonight, are they not?
They are tonight. The day that we record, they are this evening.
Okay. So I guess we'll talk about the Oscars next time then.
Yeah.
If there's any surprises.
Even though this will air after everybody knows, do we want to wager on who we think Best Picture will be?
What are my choices?
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with one of those. I'm gonna think that he's going to sweep, and maybe Mr. Robert Downey Jr. could very well get a Best Supporting Actor.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that.
No, we'll see some surprises. I will be tuning in just so I can see the Ken song. I've not watched Barbie.
No, neither have I.
And I lament that fact every day, but I have not watched it yet. So, all right, let's do some news, and then let's go find some dragons. Jim, you've gone on record numerous times. You're not a big fan of the music biopics.
No.
You've also gone on record that you're a very big Beatles fan.
Yes.
Well, you're getting both of those. Sony has announced that
I'm getting all four of those.
You're getting all four. They are filming four completely separate biopics, one for each member of the band, helmed by Sam Mendes, and they're all going to be filmed and then released within the same year. I mean, they'll film them all together probably starting now or 25, but in 2027. So we have couple more years before they drop, but they're all four are going to drop within 1 year span.
Now, I got really excited when I first read this because I assumed that they were going to be like documentary full-length features.
No, these are biopics.
They're going to hire actors to play,
correct.
And it's going to be a scripted film. And so as soon as I saw that was probably the second or third time I realized this. Once that headline came up, I am not on board because, first of all, in order for somebody to capture the essence of a music personality that is well known to begin with, you've got to really catch lightning in a bottle. You have to be very lucky as a casting agent just to get that perfect actor to make you forget that you're not actually, that this is not the person. I'm just watching an actor here. It only happens occasionally. That the Queen movie was one case where Rami Malek just embodied Freddie Mercury.
Well, I was just going to say, can we just get Austin Butler to play all four of these guys?
Austin Butler, I think, can only play Elvis. And that's going to be the...
That was a lightning in the bottle right there.
But yeah, that's another case of somebody just being perfect for the role.
Right.
I can't see them getting lightning in a bottle 4 times.
And if the first one out of the gate sucks, you got 3 more right behind it. I mean, we talk about this all the time now because you can't just have one movie. You got to have a trilogy. So, it's interesting because up to this point, I read, obviously Apple Corps has never really released the music rights for a biopic, but Sony had to go and get them from the Michael Jackson estate. And I forgot that he bought those out from underneath Paul McCartney, did he not?
Yes, he did.
But we've seen like Across the Universe and Yesterday, those are movies that have used Beatles music, but this is going to spell out the building of the band, but they're supposed to interconnect. So I'm curious, who do you start with and how does it connect? Does it leave me on a cliffhanger? You wait an entire movie about Ringo before he meets these guys and then you got to wait for the next movie? I don't know.
Right.
And the fourth movie would have to be the culmination of all of them together. I don't know how this is going to be pulled off.
You're pitting them against each other because, what if Ringo doesn't do very well at the box office, but Paul does well at the box office?
Yep. We always knew. Paul was the favorite.
Or, nobody goes to see the George movie except me.
Oh, George's my favorite.
I know, me too.
Yeah, I like George. When we covered Get Back, I think I really had a newfound appreciation for George Harrison.
Yeah.
And Ringo was smart. He just sat in the corner. He's like, "Oh, whatever you guys want, give me a backbeat. I got a beat going." Yeah. Bob Spitz, who wrote, I guess he authored a book just called The Beatles. I'm assuming that's like a biography or something, but he's been in contact, and he's supposedly attached to this in some way as well. So I don't know if they're going to use that as the template. I didn't read the book, so I don't know how salacious it gets, if they're going to dig into these guys' backgrounds. Obviously, they're going to have to create drama. Well, there was plenty of drama by the end of it, but all I can think of is, you remember when Kiss, they came out with their 4 solo albums, and they each had a poster, but the poster had like a puzzle piece missing, and they would interconnect, they would interlock to make one big poster. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm thinking this is.
That always confused me, because I just assumed, because those albums came out and they were branded as Kiss albums, yet they used sidemen as the musicians on those albums. So they were in effect solo albums being marketed as Kiss. So that
they were
was even bizarre to me as a kid.
They were in makeup, and they had really cool covers. So I found that interesting. We have a couple of years to wait on that, but we'll see. We'll see what who they cast. I'm hoping unknowns, complete unknowns. They're out there right now, looking for that perfect Paul, George, Ringo, and John. Will they just bring in Yoko?
They've got to. The audio just went out. Because you hit a level.
I'm sorry. I should have given you heads up on that.
That was beyond human hearing.
Well, that's her music right there. Sony's done such a bang up job on these Spider-Man movies. We know that this is going to be perfect. Put your trust in Sony, or if nothing else, Sam Mendes. So there you go.
But I did, and we'll leave it at this, but I did read some pundit out there on social media said there is no way that this will actually make it to theaters in the way that they've announced it will. And I tend to agree with that, because I think this is overreaching.
I guess we'll find out. Yeah. I know you also mentioned in a previous episode, you're currently watching the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
And Mr. Richard Lewis looms large on that show, and he just passed away at 76. It amazes me when I hear this, and I'm like, wow, that guy was 76. So that's unfortunate, because I do like him, and I like his kind of frenetic comedic style. He had a couple shows, and I've seen him some stand-up, but Richard Lewis has passed 76.
Again, yeah, I am watching the last season, and he's never lost it. You know, he's still the same Richard Lewis in terms of his comedic, but you can tell, like in this season, that he looks much older and frail. So it's kind of sad now. It is sad. And Larry David actually came out and he says, I'll never forgive him. He actually made me sad, or he made me cry, something to that effect. Yeah, they have a great rapport together. So yeah, it's unfortunate. So, but we're going to end on good news here. Are you ready for this? Okay. James Gunn's Superman Legacy has started principal photography. But much like the show, which is now minus a cast member, they dropped the legacy. It is just called Superman now. He said after he finished the script, he realized that this is in fact Superman, no legacy. And they started principal photography, and they must be somewhere up north. So I'm thinking maybe they're filming some Fortress of Solitude scenes, because he teased a screenshot of the Superman shield with snow kind of bespeckled on the sides, and people are already speculating the S doesn't really look like an S. It looks a lot like Alex Ross's design for Superman in Kingdom Come, which was an Elseworld DC comic that came out years ago, where Superman had to come out of retirement and basically battle superheroes that have gone rogue, almost like the boys. But to me, I say he's an alien. This really shouldn't be an S anyways. And I guess right. So it should be something. I think what it was always meant to be was just some symbol of Krypton that happens to look like an S. Yeah, right, like his family crest. But here's the thing: is that it looks like he's really leaning into the Donner version, because we're getting, not only are we getting Otis, we're also getting a Miss Tessmacher. Mr. Smucker?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
Mr. Smucker?
Yeah. So, in what capacity? I have
That's
no
the
idea.
only reason I remember that character's name, because it's shouted a million times in that movie.
Yes, Monster. Yeah.
So, did you see the set leak photo of the actor in costume?
Yeah, here's what I'm going to say about that, which is it has not been proven that it's real, and that there's a lot of speculation it's AI. Because somebody pointed out that the cape is incredibly short, and there was much speculation that if this is what he chose, that he's already going in the wrong direction. It looks like it's very true to the Christopher Reeve costume, as well as the original comic book with his underwear on the outside, and he's
but in any photo like that, though, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because of course, if you see somebody walking around in any Superman costume, broad daylight on a set, he's going to look ridiculous, no matter what the costume looks like.
Right. And again, the only one so far, like I said, James Gunn, I follow him on Threads and on Instagram, and he's only released 2 pictures. They did release like a cast video of just the 3 main leads. But I don't know. I'm getting the vibe that it wasn't real. Whatever. So that's my news items. I don't know if you've come across anything in the last
No,
days.
The big thing for me was that Beatles.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I jumped on that then. All right, let's go save a damsel. Oh, wait, she doesn't need to be saved.
She doesn't. And that right from the get-go. So it's not a surprise turn of events during the course of the movie.
No, I basically made that judgment just the fact of the movie poster.
But she gives a voiceover right at the beginning. There's been many stories of chivalry where the hero knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of those stories.
I'm glad I didn't see the trailer for this, because I think it's only 110 minutes. You're in, you're out.
Yeah, I was like, did I fall asleep during this? Because
and it takes a good 25 minutes just to set up. I would assume that if you watch the trailer, you know exactly what you're getting. So they tease what's going to happen long before it ever happens. And you're like, just get to it. That's just give me the damn dragon.
Yeah.
So
there is a lot of setup. There is a lot of setup before she gets
set up. But this just kind of came out of nowhere. And I did some research, and I guess they announced it back in 22. That this was coming, but she was executive producer on this. This kid just turned 20.
This movie didn't come out when it was supposed to initially. Right. I think it was slated for a fall 2023 release, but because of the strike, it got pushed back so everybody could promote it.
Okay. Well, I haven't really seen anybody promoting it.
Well, I've seen Millie Bobby Brown on the social medias. Yeah, I have.
Okay. All right. Well, she should be proud of herself, because if she executive produced and starred in this thing, she's got some clout. But I think she must have some kind of a deal with Netflix, because she's also was in those Enola Holmes. I always hate it when the movie posters have a really cool logo design, and then when you see the movie, it just has just block lettering. And then this one, the logo used in the movie was cooler than what they used on the poster, because the S was actually a little dragon.
So we opened with a prologue of knights hunting this dragon.
A very Game of Thrones opening.
As a narrative device, and this is used quite a bit in contemporary films, you're not being shown the whole story here in this prologue. It's almost like Paul Harvey comes in at the end, and now the rest of the story.
Yeah, you're right. It's a narrative device to be like, everything that we were told has been a lie, and you're like, you lied to me from the beginning of this movie. Yeah.
So you're given this backstory of these noble knights storming into the dragon's lair underneath a mountain, because that's where the dragons live, in a mountain, right?
Why are they always the last one, too? Every dragon is the last one. Who sired the babies?
Didn't it? No. In Reign of Fire, they did the one male had to fertilize everybody, and that's why they had to take out the male. But maybe in this world they can self-reproduce. Who knows? I don't know.
They have some frog DNA in them.
Perhaps they do.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Life finds a way.
But this is also a case of a talking dragon.
Yeah. So later in the movie, the queen is telling them that the king made a deal with the dragon. I'm like, so the dragon told him, and then sure enough, it's a talking dragon. And I immediately wrote, I'm not sure I'm on board with this talking dragon thing. So, you might as well just bring in Aquafina.
There is precedence. There's precedence.
Oh, what? We'll bring Sean Connery and Dragonheart.
Yeah, that's
Dragon,
exactly. Pete's dragon talks as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a different approach for sure. And it's needed because you have to find out what this dragon's motivations are.
Right, but even looking at our second movie, you don't really need to speak in order to show your hand of what your motivations is. You kind of let the audience. So it becomes less of a beastly, scary thing.
Yeah,
and more of just like a bad guy.
Right. Yeah. A misunderstood bad guy.
Yeah.
No, you've been lied to this whole time. I've been lied to this whole time. It looks really nice. Production wise, this was pretty impressive. I don't know what the budget on it was. Director's the same guy who directed 28 Weeks Later, Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. And it's a pretty big name cast. I mean, we got Millie Bobby Brown, Angela Bassett, Ray Winstone, who I haven't seen since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah. This particular king, played by Ray Winstone, is plucked right from East End London, just like all of his other characters.
Yeah,
boy.
But I liked him. I liked his character. I actually enjoyed him. I'm like, I want to see more of this guy. Hans Zimmer, his name's in the credit, but he produced the music. He didn't actually score this. So what is he, just like sitting in the corner going, yeah, that sounds good. Again, this opening sequence where the king and his knights and the dragons, you don't see the dragon, you just get hints. But she's spewing like full molten lava, not just fire, like molten lava.
Now, aren't these people prepared for this? Because they seem to be caught off guard.
Well, I think this is why, the Enterprise always brought down those red shirt guys. All right, you go first. Like they came, right. They didn't have shields or anything. They just stood there.
Wait, there's fire?
Right. The dragon burns them. Chris just obliterates them. And he's like, all right, to me. And then the next round of guys stand around him. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then finally, he's the only one left. Okay, I'll make a deal. Okay, enough. No mas.
Right. Correct.
I'll make a deal.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess they knew that it talked, because otherwise you don't reason with an animal.
No, because you don't, as you said, there's very little shown of the dragon in this first scene, and you don't see it speak. You hear it speak a little bit later.
Yeah, not until it needs to. Yeah.
And so then, after this prologue, because they have to give you this dragon right up front, it's a little bit of action because you don't get the dragon again for another 20 minutes or so.
Right.
Introduced to the sister princesses, Elodie and Floria. Floria's what, maybe 12?
Maybe.
And Elodie is the older sister, played by.
Yeah, this is Frozen right here. This is Elsa and Anna.
Yeah. So Elodie is Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, and I'm glad I had the closed captioning on, because Elodie doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Right, because you could easily mistake it for Melody. But yeah.
Elodie.
So have you taken to the closed captions now that you've you've been exposed to this show?
Yeah? I have to. Yeah. So just so I can capture. Yeah, because there's times when we talk about stuff and I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that at all. Yeah. If only there was closed captions in Madam Web, I might have caught the Peter Parker reference.
Because a lot of times in movies that you're familiar with, characters are mumbling and you may not have thought that they've said anything, but.
Well, there are times where it'll say, people talking in background, or it'll say something. I'm like, I didn't hear that at all. Like, is this like on the 5th channel that I'm just not getting on my television? So, but yeah, this is Lord Bayford is Ray Winstone, I guess his character.
Yeah.
And Angela Bassett, stepmother. So you immediately think that she's a bad guy. So one thing we've learned from Disney movies, all stepmoms are evil.
Yeah, you can't help but think that, right?
And that's all they call her, stepmother. They don't give her a name.
She turns out to be one of the heroes.
She's Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
I don't think she wants to play a bad guy. So, right, we're told that there's a faraway kingdom and they want to marry the eldest daughter off to these people are not rich by any means. They're very poor. And that's also hammered home that they live in squalor and have to chop wood and
they have no servants. They're selling all their royal items just so they can feed their village, their people. Yeah. So Elodie has to be married off to somebody rich in order to save their community that they rule over.
And everybody seems pretty content. Like, okay, all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have her. I'll make another one.
The best offer comes from Aurea, I think the place is called.
Aurea, yeah.
Yep. And of course, Elodie is resistant at first, but then she's like, "Oh, I'll do it for the people. I have to do this." So it's a faraway land. They have to take a boat journey to get to Aurea. And this is actually a really nice foreboding scene because they hit a fog bank right before they enter the waters of Aurea. And you realize, as a viewer, oh, this must be from the dragon's fires, right? That there's a constant fog bank around this community. And then they see these flames in the distance. And it's a great Lord of the Rings kind of a scene where there's these two statues they have to sail in between to get into Aurea, but they're dragon statues facing each other.
They are very well realized. They're very impressive. And yet they don't ask once, what's up with those giant dragons at the front of your port? Yeah.
It's actually like embarking on the old Dueling Dragons roller coaster in the Universal.
Is that where they took it from?
You have to, at the start of the queue, you walk through two dragons facing each other. I'm like, oh, they're about to go on a roller coaster.
I thought they accidentally made a left turn at Albuquerque and ended up on Skull Island.
So everybody's very happy to see them. They roll up in like a golden Cinderella carriage to Aurea's royal castle. They meet Robin Wright, who is the future mother-in-law. Queen Isabel. So if you've got, a stepmom and a mother-in-law, I think the mother-in-law trumps as a villain. So if you got the scales there, she's tipping the scale.
Again, even without watching the trailer, this is incredibly predictable. And it's like, just get to it, because we know there's more to what this ceremony is. You feel it. I don't know if it was in the music, if it's just the way that it's shot tension wise, or if we've just seen enough of these movies where you're like, all right, we know where this is going. Just give me the sacrifice.
Yep. And so you also meet Prince Henry. Not only do you meet the mother-in-law, but you meet Prince Henry. You brought up Frozen before, Anna and Elsa. And you also had, what was it? Hans? Sven was the reindeer. But who is the guy that was supposed to be Prince Charming, but he ended up being the bad guy at the end?
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but it's the same kind of deal because Prince Henry.
So they meet and she's like, all right, I could have done worse. He definitely could not have done any better. He lucked out. They go for a stroll and come to find out, like, she's an artist and they've been writing letters to each other. So how long in between the proposal and them actually showing up on Aurea? Listen, unless they're tying it to carrier pigeons and they're just flying back and forth, like.
So, she starts to rethink her predicament because she's like, oh, maybe I can make it work with this guy.
Yeah, well, once they see the places, well, I mean, it's opulent. It's like, even the little Floria is like, I thought I knew what wealth was. I can't believe you're going to live here.
And also another tell is that she's an artist, but the thing that she most likes to draw are maps.
Yeah.
Like little mazes, that she can then solve.
Yeah.
So, she's going to get lost at some point and then find her way out easily because that's what she does.
And I got questions about that, but we'll get there. And then there's the little scene where she's out on the balcony and she's overlooking her land and she's going to be princess. And there's a girl in like a tower turret on the other side of the castle that she sees. Right. Yeah. And the girl doesn't look too happy.
So I'm thinking, really? This guy is that much of a scumbag that he's got two brides simultaneously there?
Yeah. And the handmaid actually comes in. Ma'am, they're ready for you. You have to come in now or something like that. And you're like, okay, something's going on there. And can I just say, these clothes got to be so uncomfortable. It's like, really? You can't invent sweatpants or something? There's a whole sequence of her getting in her wedding dress. And this is just so that you know how many layers she has to take off later when she's trapped in the cave. And I'm just like, what if she gets all the way dressed and then has to pee? What do you do? I guess that's what chamber pots are for.
Michael Keaton had the same problem when he took on the Batman role. So they don't want to waste any time.
So they get married in the courtyard. And then the bride and groom get in their little carriage and they go for a ride. And then he says, well, there's one final ceremony. We have to go to the top of the mountain and perform this ritual as a final homage to my ancestors. And they get up there and all those people are already there. How'd they get there?
I know. And they're all wearing masks. It's like suddenly the movie turns into The Wicker Man. That's
It's like they all run up there. They're almost there.
Yep.
Take the long way up the mountain. Okay.
Well, maybe they have two factions. The one faction that's actually invited to the wedding, and then the other faction that's been up there for a couple of days already.
Well, that queen had to hustle.
Yeah, well, she had to hustle, yeah.
If it was just her, she still had to hustle. So, yeah. So then they do this other ceremony where, as you mentioned, they ceremoniously cut their hands and merge the blood. So she is now one of them. She is royalty. Now I must carry you.
When they reach the top of the mountain, there's a massive chasm that they're performing this ceremony on. And there's a stone bridge that goes to this altar that they have to walk over the chasm. So after they mingle the blood, almost like carrying her over the threshold, he picks her up, tells her to close her eyes.
Throw the coin like it's a wishing well.
Yep. And then he picks her up to carry her back over the stone bridge and just dumps her over. He just throws her.
This is the 10K princess pitch. He just chucks her over the side. And again, we know this is coming. This is so laid out for you that this is what they're going to do. Why go through this entire charade? Because at one point, the mom, Angela Bassett's actually trying to relate to the queen. She's like, well, now that we're going to be family. And the queen's like, mind your station. Because she wants nothing to do with these people. It just seems like it's a long way to go, because we find out this is not the only one. The girl that was on the balcony the day before was also sacrificed. So is this kid just getting married every day?
And what happens to the family? It's like, do they just go away?
And they've been doing this for centuries. So at what point does the other villagers or people in other lands like send out messages and be like, hey, when these idiots invite you to their castle, don't go. No, we're oblivious to that. Yeah, this is going to happen.
Our daughter did. We never saw her again.
And the one thing that we don't see, it's behind closed doors, but the father is told what's going to happen.
Because he's very upset and troubled.
Yeah, but
the morning of the wedding.
Until he starts counting his gold shekels. Like you said, the mom, the stepmom who you think is going to be the evil one is actually she's like, yeah, we gotta do something. This is ridiculous.
Because she's the one that rallies the family. Like we've got to save her. Millie Bobby Brown, she falls. I don't know how far she falls, but she's at the bottom of this chasm.
A long way. She's like Rambo jumping out of the helicopter. She's barely bruised. But the good thing is that she did find her coin again.
She did find the coin, and she also eventually finds that other girl that she saw on the turret. Apparently, they snuck in a wedding in between.
Well, and at the end of the movie, he's getting married for the third time. And I'm like, are we just doing this every day? I will say this. When they finally get to this scene, when they're finally like, all right, they dumped her. She's now down. She's in her tattered, torn dress. I'm like, this has Ready or Not vibes all over it. And if this is what we're going to do, if we're going to get retribution on these people, I'm in, because they're kind of laying the groundwork that there's swords down there. Clearly in the movie poster, she's holding a sword and she's all beat up and bruised and dirty. And the dragon finds her right away.
Yeah. So now we get the reveal that the dragon can talk, because there's actually a very effective scene where all these birds fly in. The
burning bird scene. That's actually, it takes way too long to get to this. The setup could have been a lot. This is the meat of the movie now, is her dealing with this dragon and trying not to just become another sacrifice. 40 minutes of just running around crying and screaming, hiding.
And you do get that retribution aspect of the story later on, but it comes too late. It's almost like tacked on at the end. Yeah.
So, because again, like I said, Ready or Not vibe, she's hiding from this family. Well, in this case, the dragon, who's looking to kill her. And we've seen this dragon take out, numerous kings and all of his soldiers and a bunch of birds. But I think this whole scene is nothing more than to just show you the different grottos. So when she gets to the map, you understand, because she literally points it out. There's the crystal cave I was in. There's the bird cave. There's this cave. But then she sees the wall with all the names of the girls who have been sacrificed that have found their way into this little safe zone. And then she sees their ghosts. And I'm like, now we're like black phone. Yeah.
So the dragon is the grabber.
And you're like, they're all, so they don't go to that extent where the ghosts like kind of help her. But there's a map and she's like, here, I can just escape this way. And I'm like, all right, if somebody drew a map that shows you how to escape, did they sneak back in to draw it?
And then died?
Drew it? Right. Who drew it? I was waiting to see Gazer Beam down there.
So then you get the reveal because, as you said, she's in here for quite a bit of time in the cave. But Ray Winstone brings some men in because apparently he was guilty. So he goes in and to try to save her. The dragon catches him and says to him, "Oh, it's not my mercy you should ask for. Call her out now because Elodie is hiding and she's still hiding from the dragon."
I can smell her hiding. She's like right there. Just turn your head. She's right there.
And so she comes out and the father confesses that he knew about this.
Yeah. And then he gets a very quit-worthy death scream because that dragon just drives that nail right through his chest, right through the armor.
Yep.
Like, bye-bye, daddy.
So she finally makes it out. And then the village knows something is wrong because the dragon's going nuts. She's flying around outside. She's like just blasting fire everywhere. And they're like, crap, that girl screwed it up. Now we need another sacrifice. So then they kidnap the little sister. Floria, the sister. Floria, yes. Yeah. Yep. So now they're going to sacrifice her. So at this point, it becomes the revenge movie. So earlier in the film, when Elodie first falls down and first encounters the dragon, her legs are burned. Yeah. But as she escapes, she finds this glowworm chamber.
Yeah, they're like these little bioluminescent bugs.
They serve double duty. Not only can she use them to create a lantern to walk around in the darkness, right. But they also have...
That's a very Dungeons and Dragons kind of trick.
But they also have healing properties. So she rubs their guts or something against her legs, and they heal. The burns heal.
And wouldn't the dragon know this as well? And wouldn't a dragon be impervious to its own fire?
I don't know. Maybe that's the only thing that could get through.
I had one bad princess, and I get indigestion in the middle of the night, and I burp and kill myself because I.
Well, regardless, that's what they set up because Ellie they call her Ellie. Ellie at one point sees like a shell-shaped curved rock, and the dragon has her cornered.
I wrote my notes and showed my wife before it happened. I said she's going to use that. It's going to backsplash onto the dragon and kill it.
But it doesn't kill it. It just burns it.
Yeah.
But Ellie uses this to make a pact with the dragon. She has those bioluminescent guts. She heals the dragon's burns that the dragon has self-inflicted because of the reflection of this rock, and makes a deal. Like, let's get even with them because they've been deceiving you because these girls are not actually of royal blood. You think that they are because they're doing the mix the blood ceremony.
Because the dragon says numerous times she can smell the royalty on her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's like, no, they've been fooling you. Because what we found out is that the king killed the 3 baby dragons. So this is retribution that they must forever more sacrifice their own offsprings to keep this dragon from attacking the village.
I would think that the dragon would be more satisfied just burning the village immediately.
Right. You know? Just be done with them.
Yeah.
Because now I got to hide in this cave.
And now I got to make a deal. And now I'm beholden to these people.
You think after a while you would have burned all those birds in that cave as well. There'd be no birds left. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of running. There's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of taking off clothes. Again, we get the wedding dress sequence and you just see the multi-layers. So as she's shimmying into little smaller and smaller crevasses, she's got to, strip right down to where at the end she looks like she's dressed like Wilma Flintstone and she's all dirtied up. But yeah, so now she has to go back and save Floria. So she made it out and then goes back in. It's a long way before you finally get the full reveal of the dragon. And it's neat looking. It has a really, really long prehensile tail. At one point, she's picking, guys up with it. And it is a dragon. It's a 4-legged dragon, unlike Dragonslayer, which is actually not a dragon. It's a wyvern. Because design-wise, this one has 4 legs and then wings, where the one in Dragonslayer just has 2 back feet and then wings that he uses like little bat claws. So, but that's neither here nor there. So she makes a pact with the dragon and they go back, save Floria, and there's another wedding going on. This kid, he's not even getting lucky. He's just marrying these women off. And it's like, so you've been married 65 times? Like, really? I don't know what's going on here, but
he's definitely a widower. This kid.
It's not satisfying because a dragon just shows up and blasts them all, and that's it. Which she could have done at any point throughout the centuries.
So, and as you said, Elodie, you were kind of primed for that ready or not kind of cat and mouse. Maybe she could have taken out the prince first, gone up the chain until she got to Robin Wright.
Yeah.
So stepmom and the two sisters have survived, and they're on their boat on their way back, and they've got, I assume, the treasures of this.
Oh, I would have pillaged that. Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
To bring to their poor people. And the dragon is flying alongside the boat. I'm like, are you inviting the dragon to come kill all your people now?
I guess, because what are you going to do? I mean, they made it very clearly said that where they came from was barren wasteland. Mm-hmm. So why not just stay where you were? Why not just stay?
Just bring everybody where you.
That land was lush. You had it. All right. So you got to do some work on that castle.
Oh, maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe. You didn't see this scene, but maybe everybody's going to get on the dragon's back and fly back to the castle.
That we were that close to her being riding on the back of that dragon by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Where you're like, all right, we're together now. Yeah. This is a buddy comedy.
I did read that the director wanted the ending to be open to your interpretation. So, because he's asked straight up, well, what's the deal with the dragon coming back with them following the boat? It's they both want to see the world, I think was his.
that is true. They did.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if the prince lived, because he was just a pawn in all this. I mean,
but no, he was complicit.
He's a stupid kid. Isn't do what your mommy tells you to. I mean, never saw the king, did we? It was always the queen.
No, we did. He was like a king, kind of like from Sleeping Beauty. So the mom wore the pants in that family.
Yeah, well, not anymore. She got burned.
Yep.
She was scorched. But I will tell you, the end, we get Johnny Cash, Burning Ring of Fire.
I didn't get that because you know why? Because if I'm not quick with the Netflix with my remote, it just goes right to my next recommended movie. And if I tried to go back, it just brings me back to the menu, and then I'm forced with starting the movie, fast forwarding all the way. Right. So I'm not going to do that.
So even if there's, say, you're watching a Marvel movie and there's like an end credit scene.
No, and that's how you know that there's an end credit scene, because they don't do it. They don't do it if there's an end credit scene.
Listen, this is a Netflix feature. I'd like at least give your people who worked on this thing a chance to be
seen. Yeah,
right. So it's Likey Lee, I think, does this cover version of Ring of Fire, and that's one of my favorite Johnny Cash songs ever. But it's a really weird version of it.
I'll have to go and I'll have to hear this because I actually like her. I've got a couple of her albums.
Oh, did I say it? Likey Lee? Okay. I don't know who she is. But yeah, it was kind of cool. I'm not normally on board with contemporary songs being thrown in period pieces like this. And it's not really a period piece in the sense that this is, probably another faraway planet where dragons live and talk. Yeah. I don't know.
It got in, it got out. Didn't really give you what you were expecting. No. But I think it would have been better for me if I didn't watch Dragonslayer like immediately after it, which I did. Because then you can't help but compare.
You can't help but compare.
Yeah. I mean, everybody loves, especially sci-fi nerds like you and I, everybody loves a good dragon movie.
Sure.
And, even an okay dragon movie is still serviceable, right? Yeah. So it's nice to look at. The visual effects are great.
It is nice to look at. Visually, it's pretty impressive.
And
I saw there was like all the cave sequences were pretty much filmed on stage, but like toward the end, I guess they were in Portugal, so a lot of like that castle really exists. Some of that stuff they probably augmented it, but I mean, the costume designs were pretty spot on. It takes you so long to get to this cat and mouse chase, and it's really just her on the run. And the dragon, we're going to talk about Dragonslayer. This dragon is so well realized in this second movie, and again, you're talking about a movie that's 45 years old, and this clearly is just a CG through and through.
Yeah, you can't expect anything else though these days. And they did make an attempt to make this dragon kind of ugly and mean looking, the dragon and Damsel.
Right.
Rather than like a beautiful, evil kind of a thing going on in Dragonslayer.
Kind of a bird elegance to it.
Yeah.
almost like an eagle / lion. It had like these kind of fringy things on its head.
It was ugly beautiful. Let's call it
Ugly beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that. So it's different. It doesn't look like your standard dragon.
Yeah, and Millie Bobby Brown herself, she's generated a lot of goodwill from me just by being in those legendary Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
So I find her very likable.
Yeah, there were times where I felt she looked just like Sandra Bullock with the long hair and, you know, all disheveled, and like it's serviceable. I was entertained. But like you said, if we're going to sit here and compare these two, you can't, because even as a kid, Dragonslayer to me was long and boring. It dragged. But now watching it again, and especially comparing it to this one, you're just like, I enjoy every freaking minute of that movie.
So, like you said, it's a nice distraction, and it is entertaining.
It's girl power. You know, I'm sure there's somebody out there crying about it, but there's nothing offensive other than the fact that they sacrificed all these girls. Other than that, it's wholesome family entertainment.
So bucket wise, out of 5, I'll give it 3 buckets.
I'm gonna go just below you, 2 3/4.
2 3/4.
Yeah, which is 5.5 out of 10. Out of 5, it's
because sometimes it is a stretch to find something, to settle on something to watch streaming. You've got all these options.
Well, that's just
on
it. That's
some nights.
I was saying before, give me a TV guide that's even telling me what's new.
Yeah,
because that's what I want to know. I want to know what's new, what drops. You know, sometimes you get that on my little box, and they'll be like, Barbie's now on Max, or you can watch this.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing. So if I knew this was coming, which I did because of you, this is the kind of thing that I would be looking forward to watching the day that it came out. So
and we pretty much did, right? It dropped Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. It's pretty good.
Middle of the road there.
Yeah.
All right. Are we going to the concession stand now?
We are going to the concession stand. So, of course, we've already done Cadbury cream eggs. And this would have been perfect this year because we're coming up on the Easter season, right?
Easter.
But we've already done it.
St. Patrick's Day coming up as well. So,
because we always try to do something thematic with our concession stands. So I couldn't get it out of my head, obviously, that we're doing 2 dragon features.
Okay.
The only candy would be egg-shaped candies, right? That you'd want to cover for an episode like this one.
Sure.
I didn't choose something that was an egg specifically, but I just did go for the vague general egg shape.
Okay.
And seeing that we had a wedding theme in the first film, why not Jordan Almonds?
Jordan Almonds. Okay.
So Jordan Almonds, you may know them as that perpetual wedding favor that you get usually on your table. I don't know if you get them so much these days, but it used to be like when I was younger, going to weddings, you would see them as a favor on every single plate. Every time you sat down at the reception, a little sack of a little scrotal sack of Jordan Almonds in very Eastery type colors, and they're candy covered almonds in the shape of an almond, which roughly is the shape of an egg.
Yeah, I got you. I got your thought pattern here.
And now I always, because as a kid I was adverse to anything with actual nuts in them in terms of candy. I would just spit upon your Snickers if it was offered to me.
Wow.
Spit upon your payday, what have you. Reese's was an exception. Okay. But and I did like peanuts, but I just didn't want it in my candy. Then one fateful day, I don't know when it was, but probably when I was in my teens, I did have my first Snickers bar. And my taste palette was opened from that point on. I devoured anything that had nuts in it. I went for the Hershey bar with almonds. I did everything.
Payday?
Yep. Payday.
My favorite. I'm still picking nuts out of my teeth.
So
I ate one 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I haven't had a Payday in a while.
I get the little Halloween bag with the little tiny ones.
Right.
And I put a couple of those in my lunchbox every day.
In those teen years, my mind has been blown open to accepting all sorts of candy that had nuts in it, right?
Okay.
So the first wedding that I go to after this revelation, of course, one of the favors is a little bag of Jordan almonds. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to just throw these out. I am going to go for it. So I open them up and I loved it. Loved it. The candy shell combined with the almond without the chocolate, because usually, Payday is an exception, but usually when you have like a nut-based candy bar, there's chocolate involved.
Oh, yeah.
And with Payday, I believe it's caramel, right? It's caramel that holds the whole thing together.
There is a chocolate one now, but I do not prefer
Right.
that.
So, but usually you're getting that mix of chocolate and nut, which is so good. But this thing was unique in the fact that there was no chocolate involved. It was the sweet candy shell. And it's its own thing. It really is. And I loved it. And I'm like, I can't wait to the next wedding that I can have some of these.
Get those? You got to go to a wedding?
It's not. I went to my Hannaford because, again, I always like to sample whatever it is that I'm going to be talking about. And I went into the nut aisle.
Okay.
And I had to really look for it, but they had a little container of them all the way over to the side in the corner. And I only saw them because the pastel colors caught my eye. I wouldn't have found them if otherwise. But I got them, and flavor explosion in my mouth.
Everything you remember, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah, I am a fan of the Jordan almond. And this may be the oldest candy that we've yet spoken of.
Really?
It's believed to originate in Rome in 177 BC.
What?
Now, at that time, these almonds were not covered in a hard candy shell. I don't think
they just like walking around going, we need something for this wedding. What are we going to serve?
Even back then, that's what they were. A lot of it was used for
literally like a
wedding
royal...
favors.
Huh.
Julius Dragatus, a confectioner. So he wasn't like a dentist or somebody else that's like in some other field.
Some of these other waffles.
It was actually a candy maker. So Julius Dragatus in Rome, 177 BC, invented, or didn't invent, but it was his idea, to coat almonds in honey. And he named this treat Dragati for his last name, Dragatus.
A little full of himself, huh?
And in some circles, they're still called Dragis, like as a short for Dragati, today.
Interesting.
Named after him. And even then, as I just said, they served mainly as party favors, and they were given away because they were meant to promote health, because at the time, sugar was seen as like a health food. So this was like a healthy snack to give to people.
To your health.
You're telling them long life. You have Dragati. So yeah, seen as a sort of health food. Wasn't until the 15th century that they became like a snack food. Like people woke up, I'm like, okay, so these aren't really that healthy, but we like them, so we'll keep eating them. So they're pretty much were stuck overseas in Europe until the 1940s.
What? Really?
So the history of these things jumped from the 15th century to the 1940s, where the Scanza family introduced them into the U.S.
Scanza.
Now, a few different reasons are given for naming these things Jordan almonds. The first is what everybody assumes, that they
came from the region.
They came from the Jordan River Valley, which has kind of been dispelled in many different places because, as I said, it's now tied to Rome.
Right.
The French word for garden is jardin.
Oh.
And there are garden almonds and there are wild almonds. Wild almonds are poisonous, so you can only eat the garden almonds. So there's one possibility from where the name comes.
Did you pick this from the
you
wild
die.
or in a garden?
You would die, then you would know.
I understand, but
you've got to have your taster with you.
There, almonds. Yeah. Well played. So in other words, nobody knows.
Nobody really knows.
Nobody. We're just
in Italy to this day, they are known as confetti. And some people say, oh, that's because they're multicolored, and when you throw confetti, it's usually in different colors. No, that word in Italian means wrapped. And since they are wrapped in small scrotal bags, as I mentioned before, there's that possibility as well. And now, when you give this as a wedding favor, there's a method to this madness. There's generally 5 given in a little bag, and these represent 5 different things: health, wealth, happiness, fertility, and long life.
Oh, wow.
And hence, fertility ties to the egg shape of the Jordan almonds.
I am exhausted with this. That is quite the history lesson there.
Yes, and some also think it's a wedding favor because it's meant to represent the bittersweet nature of life because of its bittersweet almond taste. I think that's getting a little too far into it.
You're digging a little too deep in there.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's what we had on hand, so that's what we did.
So there you have it, the Jordan almond. Next time you go to a wedding, sample one. Don't just toss it. And if you don't get one, ask your hosts why. Where's the Jordan almonds?
Yeah. The bride and groom were too cheap. They do not want you to have a healthy life. We'll never be able to go back that far again. 177 BC.
Yeah. Oh, and let me also point this out, that I was in a candy store about a week ago in Northampton, Massachusetts. We went for a weekend trip to Northampton, Massachusetts, and they had a specialty candy store. And I found a roll of bottle caps.
Did you really?
And on a previous episode, I promised that I would find myself some bottle caps and sample them because you had said in your presentation on bottle caps that they were markedly different than the ones that we grew up with.
Yes.
And so I sampled them. The tastes are similar. I have to give it that.
Okay.
But yes, the constituency, they're very much smaller than they used to be. And they kind of crumble in your mouth like a Tums almost.
Okay.
So it becomes dust and chalky almost immediately upon putting it in your mouth. And I remember the classic bottle caps having much more staying power and being like more of a hard candy than what is on offer today.
You could actually suck them and take the ridges off the edge.
Yeah. And it did have more of like that soda. I don't know if this is just mental, but I have a feeling that the classic bottle caps had more of that carbonated feel to it somehow.
Okay.
When you sucked on it, and these just kind of have a flavor of soda. So yeah, I agree that they're not the same. They are not the same what I remember. Still good, mind you.
There, yeah.
But there you have it.
Very cool. All right, Jordan almonds.
All right, so let's get into our second feature.
Let's go. I will tell you right now, last episode, I mentioned that we would be talking about Rob Bottin, and I was wrong.
You're remiss. Is it Winston?
No, Rob Bottin had nothing to do with the special effects in this. These were the ILM guys. So you're talking like Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren and Ken Ralston.
The usual suspects of ILM.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it because there were some revolutionary things that were created just for this movie. And it shows. So we mentioned this is not on Disney Plus.
Dragonslayer. It is a Disney co-production though.
Yes, with Paramount.
With Paramount. I assume that you could get it for no additional cost if you have Paramount Plus, which I do not, so I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. We found it on Pluto, and you had to sit through ad nauseum ads. There was a lot of ads thrown in here. My guess is that this came right from the 4K Blu-ray because it looks really, really nice. I
got the DVD from my library and I chose to watch it on streaming because I knew that it would look much better if I did it on streaming. Yeah, which is unfortunate, right? But you got to sit through the commercials unless I think you. No, I got it. You rented it? I got it on Prime. So I paid. Okay. It was like $3. So worth it. Yeah. Definitely worth it. I mean, Prime is our new Blockbuster. It's very few and far between that we don't find something. So we both saw this originally upon its release in 1981. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that I probably saw it the year later. It was probably a backup feature in the drive-in. And I was trying to think what I would have seen this with, being a Disney movie or a Paramount Tron movie. Could it have been Tron? I don't remember seeing Tron in theater or in the drive-in for that matter. But I did see this in the drive-in, but it probably would have been the year later. It probably would have been a backup feature to something that came out in 82. So, because I saw this on its initial run in a theater, not at the drive-in, a long defunct theater now, in Poughkeepsie, New York, a twin theater in a plaza that now just holds a Price Chopper. But I remember that theater, we saw the Muppet movie, and that was the famous story I have where we tried to sneak into Alien and we were stopped by the usher.
Yes, yeah.
So it was this same theater that my father took me to see.
You think that usher is still proud of himself? Do you know how many kids I stopped from seeing that movie?
Yeah, he probably tells the story just like I do.
If he was really cool, he would have let you in. You know how many kids I let in to see that movie?
Yeah.
That movie's a classic. I don't care how old you are. You got to go see it.
So this was a few months right after the release of Raiders, because Raiders, I would imagine, came out like around Memorial Day on 81, like early summer.
Raiders I did see in speaking of defunct movie theaters, was the Fox Theater in Corning with my brother and my friend Kevin, and that was, we rode our bikes there, so it was summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was at a time when pretty much every movie that you saw was like a hit, out of the park, home run, fantastic
Not only that,
movie.
but we were easily pleased too.
Yes, this is true.
You see a movie like this, and like I said, I just said it earlier that to me this movie kind of drags a little bit. But watching it now, and especially after comparing it to
I don't
Damsel,
remember it. I remember loving this movie, and I think
I probably I wanted dragons. Just get to the dragons. Exactly what I just said with Damsel. Just show me the dragons.
Because I remember loving the Peter McNichol character.
Oh, he's fantastic in this. He does not include this in his.
Yeah, I read that.
He's very dismissive of this, but he's got like this naivete, this Luke Skywalker naivete to him that really carries this movie, because he is the crux of what's going on here.
It's his movie. He carries, Ralph Richardson is like in the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. So it's his movie.
And you don't care about the old man. And then you just find out the old man, he was too lazy to walk. So he's like, just kill me and carry my ashes. And when you get there, reconstitute me like he's friggin' Jello. Just put me in a lake and I'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you were just lazy.
He comes back like, the white Gandalf as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, but again, like you said, the 80s, this time frame, like the glut of these sword and sorcery, these fantasy movies that we were just hammered with, Clash of the Titans, like you said, even like Raiders, which had mystical elements to it, didn't have dragons, but still, Raiders was probably the movie I had most recently seen in the theater. Right.
Saw that, and I was over the moon because I had no idea what it was going to be. I just knew that Han Solo was in it.
Right. Yeah.
So that I'm in if Han Solo's in this movie.
There you go.
And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. So now I'm expecting every other movie to hit that bar, right? And Dragonslayer was the first one on the list, and it didn't disappoint me. It did not disappoint me.
No, it is very entertaining. And when you realize the mental gymnastics these guys went through to create this dragon and to make it, we're sitting here comparing a 40-year-old special effects, and it trumps what we just saw in Damsel.
No, of course, no CG. So it's a mixture of actual on-set props of this dragon. They built, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we could jump around a little bit, but the scene where Galen goes into the fire lake, which is, your nice cave grotto, and we get the full reveal of this dragon, because we get little hints of it. That whole sequence where he's fighting, and again, he's on the run. This is, he's on the run from this thing, just like friggin' Elodie was, but he turns and fights it. Like, he just doesn't run and hide. Well, he does, but on
this viewing, I'm like, this kid is really full of himself. He needs to come down a couple.
Let's go through it and we'll get there, because that is kind of like this culmination of everything built up to this. Because, first of all, it's directed by Matthew Robbins, who he co-directed and co-wrote Corvette Summer and Batteries Not Included. He wrote Sugarland Express, which we still have not covered, Steven Spielberg movie. Directed Legend of Billie Jean, which sits in the pantheon with my sister as one of the greatest movies of all time. But I also saw Don't Be Afraid of the Dark and even Mimic were on his IMDb.
And so he, because of especially, the tie to Sugarland Express. So he's part of that group of Spielberg and Coppola, Lucas, so just not the
Paramount,
name is,
like I said, Paramount was, Indiana Jones was Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that's why this was somewhat of a co-production with Disney.
the scenes that aren't practical of the dragon look fantastic as well. So when I was a kid, I don't know if I thought that they used, a la Journey to the Center of the Earth, like a real lizard and put wings on it. In some scenes, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, no, it's he's very well realized. It's a living, breathing creature, and it's flawless. Again, going back to that Fire Lake scene, you not only have a fully built 16-foot tall hydraulic head that's facial movements, you've got a hand puppet. A lot of the close-ups of the head are a hand puppet.
Wow.
You basically have three different sizes, because the other thing too, which was up to this point, either you're slapping a fin on the top of a iguana and passing it off as a dragon, or you're doing what we saw even like in Star Wars with the little chess pieces. It's stop motion. It's King Kong, Willis O'Brien and that old school. And this is where Phil Tippett comes in, because he was the master of a lot of this stuff. And what they did was he created a computer. So stop motion is, you have a static maquette that's mobile. You can actually move its limbs. And that's how they made the AT-ATs and Empire Strikes Back and even the Tauntaun. And you move one frame at a time. You take a picture, you move it again, you take a picture. And what he did, Phil Tippett, was create what they refer to as go motion, where this maquette moves on its own in between the frames. So it doesn't have like that King Kong herky jerky, someone's hand is moving its head and then you're taking a picture. It's kind of moving on its own using a computer. So for all those full body sequences where it's flying, there was Ken Ralston was tasked with doing all the flying scenes. All of this is being utilized in one set scene where it comes out of the water. That's the hydraulic, the full size head, it's blasting fire down on Galen. And then, that's the hand puppet. And then when you see it crawling after him, that's the stop motion, the go motion, the full body character. And it's flawless.
It is.
And you have that, and it's tactile. When the claw comes down and grabs, it's a real claw. It's not, some green screen thing with a tennis ball that you're just reacting to. I mean, this thing was there, and it is unbelievable. It really is impressive.
My memory tricked me, because I remembered seeing the dragon all the way through, but they really pull a Jaws on this where they hold it back.
Even when you do think you see it, when Emperor Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, his character, turns and faces it, they do this trick where as the dragon is rising up, his character is in between the camera and the head of the dragon.
Yes.
And as it goes up, the camera tilts. So his body stays, and all you're really seeing are like the horns and the little fringe on the side. You really don't get a clear sense of its face. Yeah, this thing likes its food well done, by the way, because he's just blasting away. This is quintessential dragon. But like I said before, it's not a dragon, it's a wyvern, because his front two legs are basically like bat wings, and that's how he's crawling around. And even when he flies, they did a lot of like tests with birds and bats to kind of get that flow of how these, how a giant thing like that. I don't know how these dragons fly with giant holes in their wings, but it's a cool effect. It looks good. So we're introduced right up front with this Ulrich, who is the old wizard.
Yeah, for Gandalf, for all intents and purposes, right? And
he's like, is there someone at the door? He's like, what do you want? He goes, I know there's someone at the door. So then why'd you ask? Yeah. And this kid Galen, who's a sorcerer's apprentice, as you said, he's a little full of himself.
He is, and I actually read that that was a big inspiration for this story. It's the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
These poor beleaguered travelers have come a long way to have an audience with Ulrich the magician.
So Ulrich must have had some kind of mystique about him that they're like, all right, we got to go to this old guy.
Yeah. Well, apparently he's the last one alive that has killed the dragon. Have they established that he has already killed the dragon?
Because he does say something that he's battled them before. When he shows him the tooth, he's like, whoa, wait a minute. No. This thing's huge.
That's a tooth. I know, because I had one of those stuck in my ass about 5 years ago.
No wonder why he's cranky. No wonder why he couldn't walk. Yes. And he gives a story about, you ever heard the story of Rimbot or Merowyn sisters? And he goes on this, I don't know. But yeah, so apparently he's got some clout. And they need him to come and rid them of the dragon.
And let me just tell you, as a kid, I thought that those loose scales were the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yes,
I want one of those.
There's that scene where she's collecting them, and that was shot in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. And I'm like,
but again, the dragon aside, fantastic scenery. Backgrounds in this movie, which is all
mostly
when you're looking at the mountains in the background of Damsel, it's all artificial.
It's all shot on location. I think Fire Lake is a soundstage or whatever, because you can't just take a 16-foot hydraulic dragon with a 20-foot hydraulic tail and drag it out into the middle of nowhere and make it work. I think Spielberg will tell you that. Whatever you do, don't film in the ocean.
So they have a very familiar story when they actually get an audience with Ulrich. Their community sacrifices a virgin every season, I think.
And like I said, again, why does the virgin have to be a female? It just, listen, you got plenty of them around here. Yeah, so it sounds like this dragon is just like a cranky old man. He's like, get off my lair.
But this dragon doesn't talk, but somehow they did strike up a deal with this dragon. I don't know if it's unsaid. It's got to be unsaid because he doesn't talk.
It's like, all right, well, he didn't kill us yet. I guess he's liking this.
Yeah.
We'll just keep giving him this. But Tyrion, who goes along on this ride with Valerian, right off the bat, he's like, I don't believe any of this hocus pocus. And I'm like, he hates wizards. And I'm like, all right, can you show me on the doll where the bad wizard touched you? Like, why would he even go then?
I didn't get the impression that he went with them. He was following them to the wizards.
Yeah, you're right.
And he doesn't want them. And the king, I think, has concerns as well.
Sorry, you are correct.
He doesn't want Ulrich to mess with the dragon because he doesn't think he can beat it. And then the dragon's going to be mad and kill everybody.
Valerian goes on his own accord to seek Ulrich's audience. It wasn't the king sending these people.
Exactly.
And then Tyrion, who I just referred to as medieval Bob Ross, was trying to get them to stop. He's like, no, you're just going to provoke this damn thing.
So Tyrion is right. Tyrion is absolutely right.
Well, again, Galen didn't do a very good job. He friggin', cast a spell and the damn rocks fell into the window, into the one little tiny opening. He's like, all right, we took care of him. It's like, you don't think he has a back door?
Because Ulrich says, I know this dragon. Once he sees the tooth and he sees the scales, he's like, this is a very old dragon. His existence is pain. So he is old and spiteful.
He's cranky, right? He's cranky. He's a cranky old man.
So, and we learned that the king, a little bit later, had his own plan. Like, oh, I know it's an old dragon. We thought we could just wait it out until it died.
Brilliant plan. Yeah, we heard it's the last of its kind. So, he'll just die of boredom eventually.
So Tyrion wants proof that Ulrich can get the job done. This is one of the lines of dialogue that I will always remember from this. We don't do tests, is the old...
the old Hodges, the old guy. Yeah, don't look behind the curtain. Immediately kills him.
So Ulrich says to Galen, go get my dagger. Oh, is it this one? Yeah, is that the only dagger in the case? Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, that one. The other one's in the dishwasher.
So Galen throws it down, almost impales Tyrion's hand. That would have been unfortunate for you, Mr. Galen. So
stab me.
Ulrich says, stab me. He pulls his shirt open, stab me right here. Doesn't go well for him.
No, he immediately dies. And so they're like, oh, I guess we got to burn him. So
then they burn him and he's ashes. And I remember, of course, I remember the ending that's Ralph Richardson takes on the dragon. Spoiler alert. But I'm like, wait a second. They just burned him. How does he come back again? I don't.
Yeah, because I think it's Hodges who tells him, oh, yeah, by the way, you got to keep some of that and put it in the fire lake when you get there. Mm-hmm. But so these people immediately see this wizard who was their last hope die. And they're like, all right, I guess we'll use the kid then. It's like,
Oh,
I would have
yeah.
why'd you stick around? I would have left. I wouldn't have, let alone take the kid back with me. All right, well, let's see what he can do.
Yeah, they all help him burn Ulrich, right?
Right.
Into the green
And then,
into the green flames.
Off to Erland or whatever it is they go.
Yeah, because Ulrich's magical amulet is now reaching out to Galen. So Galen can do a few parlor tricks with it, right? He can levitate eggs and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's not very good.
No, he's not, but he thinks he is. So this is where Galen now starts to think that he's the man now that he has this amulet.
Yeah.
So they make it close to the village. He's like, let me see this dragon. Hey, I want to see him myself.
Right.
I'm the big man here now. So he goes into the cave and he gets the job done pretty quick. He causes this landslide, right? And he thinks that he's buried the dragon.
Yeah, it's not, that's the worst plan than what the king had.
Because he asks right up front, is there another entrance into this cave?
Yes, there has to be.
And then
Yeah.
Valerian's like, one is enough. Okay, I'll take your word for it. And so there you
Just
go.
buries him.
But we have skipped over the first sacrifice because we did get that scene.
Yes, the extra crispy virgin.
Yeah. And it's terrible. She manages to free herself, like cuts her wrists in order to slide herself. She's spitting on the chain so she can slide her hands out of there, but to no avail.
But then she runs into the cave. Where are you going? No, you're going the wrong way. Is this the week? No, we don't see the babies yet.
We don't see the baby. That was a jump scare once Valerian goes in.
Okay, that's right. Explain to me, why does Tyrion shoot Hodges?
Because he thinks that Hodges is the next in line, I think, to the sorcerer. So Tyrion shoots Hodges because for some reason, because he sees this old guy. Oh, he's old. He must be the next in line. He's the one that's going to fight the dragon. It can't be this little kid. So I think that's why he shoots Hodges.
Okay. And not before Hodges then tells Galen what he needs to do with the ashes.
Yeah. But we also get the reveal before the landslide that Valerian is not what he seems.
Yeah, this is where I wrote, this is why it's not on Disney Plus, but I do clearly remember a full frontal, and maybe that was just my salacious child mind.
You know what? I did too. I was surprised
so up to this point we're led to believe that Valerian is just one of the guys, and Galen catches him swimming, and Valerian's like, no, you stay there. And so Galen strips down, and you get a little snippet of wee wee as he jumps in as well. Is underwater. That was nice and clear, so you can see that Valerian is clearly a woman.
And of course, the reaction.
Well, what else are you gonna do? And so what's weird is that later he professes that he loves her. And I'm like, was that when you thought he was still a guy, or afterwards? You're like, all right. I don't know.
Probably as a kid, I don't remember if I knew or not before the big reveal, but I probably didn't. I probably was just wide-eyed and innocent. And
sure.
But it's pretty obvious now.
It's obvious that she's a girl, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I'd have to do a deeper dive on that to see if they actually cut out that little frontal.
Maybe it's on the DVD. Maybe I'll have to research that.
Oh, frame by frame. Yeah. What do you do? Why do you keep going back to that scene? Why are you rewinding this 100 times?
She explains that the reason that she's masqueraded as a boy, so she wouldn't have to take part in the lottery, because her father has made her dress up like a boy her whole life, so he wouldn't lose her to the dragon.
And yet everyone got judgy when they found out that the princess was not part of it.
I know. They accepted her immediately. They're like, oh, you're a girl? Okay. Welcome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
You've been hiding this whole time and we've had to die and not
correct.
you?
Yeah, and those old women were shouting during the lottery. And I'm like, yeah, you got nothing to worry about, old lady. You're not, they're not picking you.
Yeah, you old tramps up there.
So we finally make it to the village, and
but now that they think that the dragon is vanquished, anybody would know that it's not vanquished.
Right,
it just now can't get out.
Yeah, now it's just pissed.
So she puts on a dress immediately. She's like, I've been waiting for this day.
Did she just have one waiting?
She must have. Yeah. And like we said, she walks out, and all the village girls are like, oh, okay.
Oh, look at that. Wait a minute. I went on 3 dates with that guy. Yeah. But King, what is his name? Cassiodorus Rex. That's a mouthful right there. And what's going on with the just the Amish beard, no mustache or anything?
I know. Yeah, they try to make him as unlikable as possible.
Well, they do a good job because he is very unlikable. Although he was playing Jenga at one point. What was that? But poor Galen couldn't pull off a simple trick, and
I know. So Galen, the king wants to see Galen because he wants to meet this sorcerer who saved their community.
And immediately is like, "Wait, you're the idiot."
Mm-hmm.
Crap.
I think that was pretty impressive in itself, what he did. He managed to knock over the table, so he had something going on.
Right. I don't know. There must be some wires back here or something. So he incarcerates him. He puts him in jail.
But he's got some reason, because he said, my brother was like a fierce warrior, and he went to go kill this dragon. Didn't work. All it did was piss the dragon off. Yeah. And now I think that you've done the same thing. Yeah. So this is when the princess comes to visit Galen in jail. And Galen's like, Princess like, well, I'm in the lottery every year. Who are you kidding? Your name's not in that lottery, and you know it. So she starts to question.
He just marched into town and starts making accusations. Like, what are you doing, dude? You're already in jail. So, yep, sure enough, Daddy's been rigging the elections.
Daddy not only has been rigging the elections, but he steals the amulet and tries to do some spells himself.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I would. It's the first thing I do, because he immediately sees it glowing. He's like, "Oh, that's how you're doing it."
So the emperor leads the townsfolk to just to see if the dragon is actually.
I don't know what was actually going on there. Like, was he like exercise it? Was he like, all right, we got to do some kind of a baptism here to keep this thing sealed? I don't know, but dragon was having none of it.
Yeah, so there was a back door, apparently, for this dragon to get out.
You unclean beast. It's like, you knocked at my front door. I can't take a bath now.
So the dragon gets out and does a little flyby, sets some houses on fire, and you still don't quite see it. You see it in the distance. It's still not quite the reveal.
Right. And this is where I was saying before, where the camera is behind Palpatine's head. So as it rises up, the camera kind of moves. So, his head's obscuring the front of the dragon. But you do get the scale of it.
Yes,
that this thing is massive, and immediately just unloads and burns him to a crisp.
So now that the dragon is alive, they figure, okay, we've got to sacrifice somebody right away to stop it from coming every night.
Yeah.
So they have a new lottery. And who gets chosen but the princess?
That's a lot of work that she had to make fake lottery cards with just her name on every one of them.
James Bond did the same thing in Live and Let Die when he was trying to bed Jane Seymour, because Jane Seymour read the tarot cards. And so he gave her a loaded deck of tarot cards with all the lovers. So when he told her to pick a card, like, our future is in the card you pick. He takes out the lovers, like, oh, I guess we should be lovers then. And then he drops the cards and they're all the lovers.
Oh, well played, Bond. Well, it was Jane Seymour.
So, yeah, the princess does the same thing. She stacks the deck and it's all her name on the tiles. And it's Valerian who's yelling out, "Let it stand." I'm like, that's big talk from somebody
who's been hiding. Put your name in there. I wonder if your name was in there. But this is also where we find that the blacksmith had a secret dragon lance just hiding in a waterfall.
Yeah, and it's not rusty at all. It's
no. It can cut right through this. Look, can it core apple? I don't know. Let's find out. He's got a dragon lance.
So, and he calls it Dragonslayer, hence the title of the movie.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So Galen is not the Dragonslayer. It is the weapon, which
doesn't work.
Which doesn't work very well. No, he loses it pretty quickly. You know what does work is those dragon scale shields that she weaves together. Although his hair had to have gotten singed. I mean, he's not hiding completely behind that shield. Yeah,
true. Yeah. So you'd think that he'd be bald, no eyebrows, when he
yeah, right. A little toasty. And that's what I'm saying. In the first movie, the dragon's lava is enough to wound itself. But here, he's using the dragon's scales to protect himself, meaning that the dragon is impervious to its own flames.
Right. Correct.
But yeah, so Elspeth's chosen she lets it stand, and now she's going to be sacrificed.
And now the king has no recourse but to Galen is his only hope to save his daughter. So he gives the amulet back. He's like, I'm hoping that you can actually kill this dragon and save my daughter.
What is Tyrion doing, by the way? Why don't you put him to task?
Yeah.
Why don't you go kill this? You're just sitting around bitching all day.
So this is when, like, before Galen goes down into the cave with Dragonslayer, Valerian has made this shield out of the dragon scales. And they have a little exposition scene where she says, if you die, we'll keep doing the lottery, and then I'll eventually get chosen because I'm still a virgin. And then suddenly they kiss, and then the camera pulls back.
We're just missing the train going through the tunnel.
So she has escaped it once again. She's found a loophole.
That's one way to get out of the lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right, we're gonna put your name in. No, we're good. What do you mean we're good? What? You were a virgin yesterday. Yeah, well, that was yesterday.
Yep. I'm gonna go stand up with the 80-year-old harlots up there now.
So Elspeth, this is where she runs into the baby dragon.
Yeah, so he actually does release her, but she chooses, instead of to run away, she runs into danger. Yeah, and you get you get the babies. Idiots. Feasting on her. This is horrific. This is a horrific scene.
And I did read that they had to go through numerous designs because the problem was that they were making them too cute.
Yeah.
And, he comes in and basically beheads them. He slaughters them when he finds out that they ate her. So they had to go out of their way to make these things extra ugly so that you would be okay with him killing these babies.
One of them's like got her foot in its mouth.
So it's like, what'd she do? Did she just like fall over and knock out and they immediately just started devouring her? Because there's not much. He ends up fighting Tyrion. And it's like, this guy's an idiot. Just let this kid go. Because if he dies, then whatever. But yeah, Dragonslayer, it's a Tyrion Slayer.
Because Tyrion's still holding on to the fact that you're going to ruin everything. This dragon is going to kill it. Yeah.
It's already ruined. You might as well try and, make lemonade. He stabs him right through the post, goes through the post, right through Tyrion. Do they arrest him for killing Tyrion is what I'm getting at. Because that's the only person that was actually taken out, not by a dragon. But yeah, these baby dragons are horrific. And it is, she is half devoured. Her one's already got a foot taken off. And Galen comes in and he is horrified as well.
So Elspeth is probably the most noble of, there's only two main female characters, her and Valerian.
She did the right thing.
And she did the right thing and got punished for it.
Yeah. What do you mean I've been safe all this time? No, I'm going to make amends. Nobody in that town's going to thank her. Be like, let's erect a statue in her honor.
But of course, as a kid, you're like, you still don't care about her because Valerian's the good guy's girlfriend. So she's got to live. Yeah, she's got to do whatever she has to.
And we saw her boobs too. So it's like, we're invested now.
So now we get the burning lake scene. So Galen is kind of dim. So he doesn't realize right away that he's got to throw the ashes into this burning lake. It only occurs to him after the fact.
When he's escaping, when he's on a boat in the middle of the lake. Yeah.
But again, great practical effects here, because this would not have been done with real flames in a contemporary movie. You could do it with CG flames, but you could tell that like they've got everything like oil or something on the top of this water that they're setting on fire, and it's like you could feel the heat coming on to.
Well, you're getting those sounds.
Yeah,
you're getting that sound effect, and again, like you said, this is a fully hydraulic, animatronic, life-size dragon head that comes out of the water to this fantastic reveal, and he sees the reflection and he's just like, oh shit, it's right behind me. Look out, it's right behind you.
So they have an initial battle. He actually jumps on its back at one point, on the back of its neck, and stabs it.
That's all that sequence. This is what I'm talking about before, where it's such a mix of all of the effects to bring this thing to life are all happening in this one sequence. And so, it's a little animatronic Galen on the back of this thing stabbing them, but it's, because of this go motion, there's blur. So it looks real. It's not your Kong fighting the T-Rex and it's, herky jerky. It's flawless.
Because generally in a movie like this, the practical effects would far outshine whatever they managed to do with the stop motion. But as you said, it's all fantastic.
Yeah. And think, I mean, Jurassic Park didn't come out for another 12 years. Initially, they were going to do stop motion or use the go motion. And they actually did tests with the T-Rex before they decided, before the CG was employed. And that was in secret. And then they just showed it to Spielberg to be like, we think we might have a better way to do this. But it really, if you compare these two movies, they're pretty, I mean, like I said, even though there's a 12-year gap, this holds up. This is very impressive. And I believe that this won Academy Awards for its special effects.
He tries to stab the thing with Dragonslayer, doesn't work. It just rips it out using its little wing claw. And Valerian finds him unconscious the next morning. How did he wind up there? I don't know. But right. Valerian finds him and he's like, we got to leave. We got to get out of here. It didn't work. So as they're running, again, like you said, he realizes, hey, that he told me to put the ashes in the lake of burning fire. That must be the lake of burning fire.
Oh, I was just there.
Yeah.
Now I gotta go back. Yeah.
So he goes back, he does it, and Ulrich is reanimated in the green flame again.
Yeah. It's like, you lazy SOB.
Yep. It's like he couldn't walk. That's why he died. He didn't want to walk.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. He's like the genie in the lamp.
And then as soon as he's alive, he's like, "Do you have any food?" It's like,
boy, no. Do I have a crick in my neck. Yeah. Ay. Yeah. So, but then he's still cryptic. He's like, all right, you'll know the time when you need to smash that thing. And all right, I'm gonna go now. It's like, wait, what? And of course, she's like, do it, smash it. No, not yet. Like, well, when?
He says, "I'll know."
You could have been a little more specific.
So the dragon and Ulrich have a face-off. Ulrich goes up to the top of the highest mountain, and the dragon strafes him a couple of times.
And again, this is where the flying sequences, where you really just sense the scale of this thing. I gotta take out this old man. All right, let's do it. Yep. Hope he doesn't have an exploding amulet.
Yeah.
So he's just a bomb. Is that what happens if he had dropped it? What if he dropped it and it just broke on the floor? Would he have exploded? That's a hell of a trick right there.
But yeah, so the dragon hits him at one point and opens up his shoulder. So then he drops his
you're
staff.
right. He strafes him. The lightning's going on, the clouds. I mean, this is all composite work. That's very impressive. Yeah.
And then after his staff is gone, he just spreads his arms open. He's like, all right, take me.
With arms wide open.
So the dragon...
he wants me to pick him up. All right.
Yep. So the dragon gets him in its claws, flying away with him. And
all right, now's the time.
Now's the time.
Now.
And this thing goes up like the Death Star.
Holy crap, does he explode? He is just obliterated. And that is such a fun dead carcass. It is just horrific.
I remember in the theater that the audience, because I saw this on opening night, right? Wow. So there was quite a few people in the theater. The sounds of protest from the audience.
Yeah, and again, that's all big practical prop just sitting in the
full size,
still sizzling and steaming, and then the king. I could feed the village for a while.
The king rolls up. Right. And stands on the dragon.
Yeah. Slays it.
And takes the credit.
Too bad they didn't have cameras back then.
I know. Or the royal artist. He'd be there for 2 days with that sword in the dragon.
Starting to stink, sir. So Galen gets the dragon and the girl.
And a horse.
Oh yeah, that is a nice little trick at the end. Boy, I wish we had a horse. And then a horse just shows up.
Yep. So maybe he is magic. I think
that was Gandalf's horse.
Yeah.
Shadowfax.
So
and that's it. And it just ends. And I said, yeah, I guess he got away with Tyrion's murder. All right.
Hey, a lot is forgiven if you save the townsfolk and the king. Didn't save the daughter though. So the king doesn't seem to be too upset about that.
No, he knew it was only a matter of time. Who names her kid Elspeth? That does not roll off the tongue. Elspeth.
As I said, this dragon is now the tent pole, which all dragons must bow to, because this, to me, is the quintessential cinematic dragon of all time?
We forgot to mention he is actually referred to as the Vermithrax pejorative, is the Latin name for the dragon, which loosely translates the worm of Thrace, which makes things worse.
Oh, and it definitely did make things worse.
Do you think his friends just call him Vermi? Vermithrax?
Vermi. He wants to be a dentist.
Why am I such a misfit? So in total, there were 16 dragon puppets that were employed.
Does the full-size one count as a puppet?
Including the hydraulic 40-foot model, 16 dragon puppets were used for the role of Vermithrax. Each was capable of flying, crawling, and breathing fire. I don't know how he breathed fire. That all had to have been in post. There's no way that they're creating a puppet that really had flames coming out of its mouth.
Unless it was they had it rigged with something in there.
I think you'd be too worried about burning it. I don't know. Yeah, so it took them quite a few months to pull this off, just to get all these pieces together, because they built the 16-foot head and the neck, and then there was a 20-foot tail. Then they built thighs and legs, claws capable of grabbing a man, and a 30-foot wing section. These were all practical, life-size pieces. And then they flew it to Pinewood Studios. Speaking of James Bond, isn't where a lot of the Bond films were filmed?
They're called the James Bond Studios.
There you go. Famous for Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars as well. I believe all three were filmed Pinewood Studios, which is outside London, if you're ever over there. Even the score, we didn't even talk about the score yet, which was Alex North. Apparently, a lot of this stuff that was used was his unused compositions for 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, I did read that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This all works together. 8 months of producing. ILM worked 8 months, 80 people, 160 composite shots of the dragon. And Chris Wallace, who we've also spoken about in the past, he sculpted and operated the dragon head. But this thing had like radio controls. I had cables and air bladders and levers. And so there was multiple artisans, standing just off camera, pumping air into this thing to make it look like it's breathing or blinking its eyes or flaring its nostrils. So
reviewers at the time were mostly positive. Both Siskel and Ebert gave glowing reviews to Dragonslayer.
Even Ebert? Even Ebert. Cranky.
He called the effects first rate, actually.
They
Ebert.
Are. He was correct in that regard.
Kevin Thomas, Los Angeles Times, called Vermithrax the greatest dragon yet.
He's yet to be topped.
Guillermo del Toro has stated that Vermithrax is his favorite cinematic dragon, along with Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. But Maleficent is animated, so
yeah. But that's like quintessential classic dragon design. But she's so well realized. It is so that silhouette with the horns, simple. That's a good call.
Yeah. He further stated that one of the best and one of the strongest landmarks of dragon movies that almost nobody can overcome is Dragonslayer. The design of the dragon is perhaps one of the most perfect creature designs ever made.
And that's coming from Del Toro.
Yeah.
That's high praise right there.
Unfortunately, audiences didn't feel the same way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember this being like a hit.
The budget on this was $18 million. I don't know what that translates to today, but it seems incredibly low.
I'm sure a lot of that went to the dragon.
Yeah. It didn't even make its budget back.
Oh.
$14 million was made at the box office in the US, and part of that was my money, my father's money, actually, on opening night.
Yeah. Well, back then, it only cost me $5 to get into the drive-in to see 2 movies.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I don't remember what movie tickets were, but.
And I never give much credence to Rotten Tomatoes, but it has an 84% fresh score.
It's nice to know that this movie has come around. Not just for the special effects, but because I mean, we were getting a glut. We just mentioned this before. Those 80s, we were getting these type of movies every freaking week. We were spoiled.
But this was, even though we were getting so many of them, this was top of the heap. one of those ones up there, at least. As you said, produced by both Paramount Pictures and Walt Disney Pictures.
Yep.
Their second joint effort after Popeye. So neither of them did very well.
I will share this with you. This just came in the mail. My Marvel Comics super adaptation of Dragonslayer. I have the little novelization, the little comic paperback, but this is the big. Is
this the super special?
This is the super special. This is number 20 super special. Yeah, and these were $2.50. You can't even touch a comic book for like under $5 now.
Yeah.
And these were fantastic because usually the covers had great artwork and then so interior. But that's probably one of the few that I saw the movie first and then bought the comic.
And I was trying to rack my brains. Like, where have we seen Caitlin Clark again after she played Valerian? And there's not much that she was in movie wise.
Didn't.
She was more of a stage actress than a film actress. She wasn't in
Just One of the Guys?
No, she was not.
Seems like a natural.
It looks like typecast. She had a very small part in Crocodile Dundee a few years later.
Oh, get out of here. That was just on TV the other day.
Yeah.
We were just watching it.
And a handful of other movies. But yeah, basically she was a stage actress.
She's adorable in this, whether she's playing a boy or a girl.
But again, the character, when you look back on this, is not the strongest female character.
No, like you said, yeah, when you watch it, you're like, all right, Elspeth's the only one who really stepped up and did the right thing. Galen was too full of himself to think that he was going to fail. Yep. Tyrion, I don't know. He was having a bad day.
But, as a kid, this never even crossed my mind. So,
no, of course not. It didn't cross my mind until you pointed it out.
Yeah. In terms of buckets, I've got to give buckets like my 10-year-old self would have, because again, this was a big childhood movie for me. So that's going to figure into this a lot. I'm going to give Dragonslayer 4 buckets out of 5.
I'm right there with you. And I think I'm giving it more now than when I saw it as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I always felt that it was kind of slow, but maybe it was just, again, me wanting to get to the dragon. Don't tease me. Don't show me little snippets. I want to see this thing.
Like Del Toro says, whenever there's a dragon in a movie, ever since Dragonslayer, you can't help but compare it, and that movie always comes out second. Like, for example, you're Sean Connery in Dragonheart. I hated that movie.
Oh, what?
I did not like it.
Well, I guess we can't cover that then.
Well, we can.
That movie. I love that movie. I love the relationship between these two. You know who I think is a very strong dragon design is Toothless. He looks more like a salamander from How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's
very Stitch. What? You're not a fan of that movie?
Not so much not a fan. I'm just haven't been exposed to it because my son didn't take to. I think I watched it once with him. He didn't take to it.
I mean, they've made like 8 movies and there's a TV show. But we had the books. And in the books, Hiccup is vastly different. Well, no, Toothless is vastly different because he's tiny. He's like a little dragon that rides on his shoulder. So they took a lot of liberties when they converted this into a movie and made it so that he could actually ride on him. But
Toothless doesn't talk. But like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of.
He conveys community.
But I'm in general, I'm not a fan of talking dragons.
Yeah, Aquafina.
So Smaug never really did it for me in the Hobbit. Obviously, Sean Connery in Dragonheart. We just talked about Damsel. Who I do think did dragons justice, Game of Thrones. I love those dragons.
Yeah. They don't talk. They just eat people.
Yeah.
Do they eat people? They just burn them.
They just burn them.
Yeah, I don't remember them eating people.
Rain of Fire, of course. Rain of Fire.
Yes. That is one of the more realistic CG dragons, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's in darkness, so it's not. And that was, again, what I was talking about before, even though this was not on Disney Plus, but we found it on Pluto. Like that scene in the fire lake. I mean, it's pretty dark, but it's cleaned up and there's not a lot. They don't go out of their way to try and hide the details of the dragon. Like they put love into this and it shows on every frame of this remastered. It has to be from the 4K Blu-ray, which is out there. And there is, I'm going to look it up. There's on YouTube. This must have been a backup feature on the DVD. And it's probably a good 45-minute featurette on the making of the dragon, the special effects and whatnot, and filming. So I think I'm going to share that to our website, TMI Confessionals Podcast.com. Go there. We have all our links there, by the way.
We do. So there's another one that we can check off the list.
Yes.
Dragonslayer.
I could just still keep talking about it. Yeah,
So,
it's out
okay.
there. Go see it. Go watch it. And you can check out Damsel too. It's no Dragonslayer, but it is, if you go in knowing that you're getting more of a 40 minutes of weeping and crying and hiding in corners, then that's the movie for you.
All right. So what else did we do in the past 2 weeks?
There are weeks where I don't do anything, and I actually have a lot. So I'm just going to bring up one. I have started watching Resident Alien on Netflix. This is the Alan Tudyk TV show. I think it used to be still on TBS. They're in season 3, but season 1 and season 2 are on Netflix right now. And this has got to be the funniest freaking show I have watched in a very long time. And it's all owed to Alan Tudyk, who we know as Wash from Firefly, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil. You know him.
Countless voice acting.
Yes, he does a lot of voice acting stuff. He was Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball. Yarg. So anyways, the story, which I didn't realize is based on a comic book, and he takes over. He's an alien who crash lands on Earth in this remote little town. He takes over the body of this reclusive doctor and ends up becoming the town doctor. There's a kid in town who can see him for what he really is as an alien. So like, there's a lot of times you see him with his alien head, and he's not just Alan Tudyk, but the way he acts, because he's constantly trying to mimic human behavior. It is so well done, the way it's written, and he has a lot of internal monologue. And his whole point of being on this planet is to obliterate it. And he lost the device that he's looking for. And so while he's developing human emotions and relationships with people in town, and there's a lot going on, there's a lot of other characters that are very interesting and you get caught up in, but he'll have this conversation and then he'll just internally be like, but I can't wait to kill you, kind of a thing. So it's fantastic. It's really well done. And I'm banging through probably about 2 or 3 episodes a day, but very entertaining.
That does show up on my feed.
I will tell you,
time.
if you watch the first episode and don't laugh your ass off, then it's not for you. But he is fantastic in this.
He always is. He always is.
No, this is above and beyond anything I've ever seen him do.
Really? Okay.
A delight, an absolute delight. And I wish I had caught up with it sooner. So that's what I've been watching.
All right. So I've been going deeper into the dark corners of Tubi.
Oh.
And they've got some really dark corners.
I was going to say, what'd you find?
Because now it knows me.
You may also like this piece of crap.
Yes.
Oh, Tubi, you know me so well. And
Tubi has a lot more and a lot better of a selection than even Prime does. Because Prime knows that I like horror movies. So it's given me all these crappy 2023, 2021 horror movies that are completely CGI and terrible. Tubi has like the cream of the crop of 70s horror movies that even Prime doesn't have. Well, Prime does, but you have to pay for it. Tubi, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. And Tubi still promotes. They just rebranded and they're like, always free. I'm like, all right, that's good. Stay free. Stay free, my friend. Stay free.
I don't care about the commercials. Give me some commercials.
Yes, correct. Yeah. You're watching commercials even during your paid stuff now anyway. So
exactly. There's a 70s horror section of Tubi. So I've been going through those, and the one of note that I've seen is called The Toolbox Murders.
Ooh.
It's from 1978. It is a very lurid movie. When I say lurid, it's got like lots of naked female victims. And of course, the toolbox murderer is using things like hammers and nail guns and stuff like this. So
look out, he's got a tape measure.
It came out early 1978. So it's pre-Halloween.
Ooh, interesting.
It's not quite in that slasher classic mode that Halloween hit so well. So the movie is based on an apartment complex that somehow is inhabited mostly by attractive women who like to take their clothes off frequently. And
as women want.
So this guy that's dressed up in like a Halloween-esque jumpsuit with a ski mask on and carries around a toolbox. It is literal. So you do get what the title promises. Carries around a toolbox. So not only can he break into these apartments, but then he uses the various tools to kill the women.
That's actually smart. That's actually genius. Is it Tim the Toolbox Taylor? Is it Tim Allen?
No, it's not. It's not Bob the Builder either.
Can we kill her? Yes, we can.
So the beginning of the movie, the first half of the movie, is the lurid part where he's breaking into and he kills like 4 or 5 women in a row, like over the course of 2 nights. So the second half of the movie is like the procedural part where the detectives and some of the inhabitants that are still surviving of the apartment complex are trying to figure out what's going on. And the reason I bring this up here, the reason I'm talking about it, because I watched more than one of these 70s horror movies, is that it stands out because one of the cast members is a veteran of Land of the Lost.
What?
Yes.
Chaka?
Not Chaka. Not Chaka.
No.
Will from the famous Will and Holly combination is in the Toolbox Murders,
but he's not the murderer.
I don't want to give it. I don't want to give it away.
Oh, I already. Okay.
Wesley
He's
Ure.
the suspect. Wesley Ure,
who played Will on Land of the Lost, is a major part of the Toolbox Murders, as is Pamela Ferdin as the 15-year-old who is kidnapped in the second half of the movie by the Toolbox Murderer. You may not recognize her name, but she voiced Lucy in the original Peanuts cartoons.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm reading the history of this movie as it's unfolding, as I'm watching. I'm like, I do hear Lucy as she's talking.
Does she call him a blockhead at one point?
She does not call him a blockhead.
Pull the football out from underneath him?
As was the case with most of these 70s horror movies, they usually get like a veteran actor in to kind of class up the proceedings. In this case, it's Cameron Mitchell, huge name in the 50s, especially because he did a lot of TV work, a lot of movie work. But, as his career progressed, he was in lower and lower budget movies, and this was no exception. Again, it's not to everyone's taste because the kills are very nasty and they're very misogynistic, but because it had this pedigree in it, it's worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning.
78, I mean, Land of the Lost, maybe 76.
Yeah, really? And he looks exactly like he did in Land of the Lost.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah, it's too bad. He didn't do more.
Toolbox Murders.
All right,
so
Toolbox Murders.
What are we doing on the next episode?
Holy crap. Are we going back to Ghostbusters?
I know we weren't that impressed with the last Ghostbusters.
And yet here we are. Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
It does look like our legacy characters are going to be a little more involved.
This was promised at the end of this last Ghostbusters movie that there would be another one.
Yeah, but again, we can't just have one movie. It's got to be a trilogy. Right. But they, outside of Winston, they could have easily written the other 2 off. And they just, it was a glorified cameo, Afterlife.
Yeah, because they really waited until the last 15 minutes to bring these. Yeah,
and then they saved the day and not the kids. If you're going to give this over to a new generation and let the kids kind of deal with this stuff. But it looks like, exactly what you said. At the end credits of Afterlife, we see Winston go back to the firehouse and purchase it.
Yeah.
Because he's like a multimillionaire now or something.
And as we know from the trailer, again, it has Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. Yeah, so hopefully they're not sequestered
and
again.
Janine's coming in. And a return of Slimer. So I'm going to tell you right now, that may influence my concession treat.
We had a lot of trouble coming up with a co-feature for this.
Yeah, because we've never covered the original Ghostbusters, but I think that kind of sits as a 5 bucket.
It does. It'll be on its own.
Needs to be. And if you're new to this show, we do take deep dives in one episode that we deem worthy of 5 buckets, which is our highest honor.
Yes.
And we have not done one in a while, but there's plenty out there if you want to go back into our vast library.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're like, well, okay, what would fit along with this Ghostbusters sequel? Maybe we'll honor one of the legacy actors that we have returning in this Ghostbusters sequel. And we settled on Dan Aykroyd. And the most thematic we could come up with, hey, this is called Frozen Empire. He did a movie, Dan did, that was mostly in the snow. So this is our connection, right? Dan Aykroyd, Cold, Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us. That's some mental gymnastics right there to come up with this. Yeah. Sometimes this stuff, these pairings write themselves, and then other times not so much.
Right. So
I think we're going to have fun because I think we both have stories.
But I'm just looking forward to hearing this theme song again, which is Paul McCartney.
Spies Like Us.
So this will be fun to revisit.
I'm going to guess 87?
85, actually.
85?
Yeah. 85.
What a year 85 was. Graduated high school, started college.
Went to see Back to the Future, right?
I did see Back to the Future. July. I could probably tell you the date. It might have been July 14th.
So yeah, that'll be in 2 weeks' time. We'll be covering Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and Spies Like Us.
Wow, that's very exciting. Yeah. I hope this Ghostbusters is good. Because clearly we have a third movie coming behind this.
Yeah.
So
keep the expectations.
I know,
down.
because I really have no expectations until I saw the trailer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we're leaning heavily into the first one again here.
So this episode is still just kind of treading water until our following episode, the next legendary Godzilla.
Yes, and people are already crapping all over it because they don't like the buddy look of it. But you've mentioned that it kind of, there's a precedent with Jet Jaguar and Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla and Anguirus. Even though he had left a lot to be desired in terms of being a tag team partner. But
yeah, look at me, I can roll into a ball. Yep. All right, let's go bowling.
Oh, Godzilla, save me again. I'm in trouble over here.
Right, correct. Right. This is not how partnerships work. I gotta save your ass every.
You're a detriment. Bringing you along was a detriment, not a help to me. Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, but that's further down the line.
Yes, it is.
Ghostbusters.
All right.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Go check out those 2 movies. We recommend them.
We do recommend them.
All right.
Bye, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. They didn't have shields or anything. They just stood there.
Wait, there's fire?